Hello.
You know,
Wow.
I never thought I'd actually miss the music to that intro. I've heard it
I
so
know.
many times. You know, I'm like, oh, it's so nostalgic. It's like, hey.
It's certainly been a long time, and I think we all missed it. And despite other opportunities, I think that we can safely say that we're probably going to be reverting back to this. And I know we were going to talk about it internally, but it's I miss the audience interaction and stuff like that. And there's I don't know, doing the other one just seemed a little bit more awkward, even though that we kind of arranged it around our schedule and stuff like that. So I think we can safely say we're going to give this another boot. Well, if you guys want to, of course.
A reboot.
A reboot. A boot. How's that? A boot. Boot. I sound more Canadian every day. Anyway, welcome to the show, guys. Welcome to the I Wanna Believes. It's not an orb, it's dust with myself, Peter N, and Trevor, Linda, and Kathy. And we are ecstatic to all be back. It was definitely an interesting time out for me, but it was all good. So, how you guys been? I know we didn't even have a chat. We didn't have a chance to chat before we even went live. Anyway, Kathy, how are you? Despite
I'm doing good. I'm doing all right.
We had before we jumped on.
That face.
I know. Smile. There you go.
I'm going to end up looking like that. The advertisement for Smile. What's that?
Yeah.
That horror movie. Like,
my dog. I have a daughter.
Joker grin and right. You do it really well. Actually, I noticed that you do it very well.
Really?
No, I'm doing good. I'm doing actually all right. First of the month, like, whew, that's exciting. I can't even believe it's October. I don't know where the bloody year went. It just disappeared. My son applied for university last night at midnight. The application's opened. So if everybody could send like massive prayers that he gets in for this for next year, that would be amazing. That would be absolutely wonderful. But yeah, that's pretty much all that's going on. How about you, Linda?
Oh, it's been busy. It's always busy. But you know what, though? Good busy. It's our really busy time of the year because, as you all know, being paranormal people, ghosts don't come out except, October. So October tends to be like, hello. But something, though? It's been good busy. And I don't know what it is in the world, but whatever's going on in the world, I've been having these little major epiphanies lately. And I don't know what that is, but right? Yes. I know, like and follow. I get it.
Yes.
But no,
Yes.
Major little epiphanies are happening to me. Seeing things that, I wouldn't have ordinarily seen. Maybe it's because of the full moon, but it's been really busy, but good. How about you, Trevor?
Oh man, I don't even know where to start. I'm my own worst enemy. I just like to add things to my plate. So aside from trying to work on some content that I'm going to be trying to stream on my own here pretty quick, I've kind of started trying to open a business, and I'm getting ready to. I started a second part-time job. Teaching at a fire school. I'm getting ready to promote and take that promotional exam at my own department. One of my daughters is getting ready to take off for 18 months out to Knoxville, Tennessee. In fact, we're taking her out to Utah tomorrow to drop her off and kick her out the door for a little while. So that's been a little hectic there.
He's doing missionary work. Is that correct?
Yeah, she decided she was going to go ahead and serve a mission for our church, and which was a wonderful surprise to me, considering the direction that she had been going. So we kind of had that a little heart to heart, and a couple of weeks later, she decided she wanted to do that, and I was pretty proud of her. So it was a long process to get her to this point, and so yeah, things are. Other than that, yeah. So I'm doing fantastic. Just happy to be here with you fine folks again.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, I'm pretty much like you. I've bitten off a little bit more than what I could chew. Like, problem is when, like, I've got a new job, and I have a lot of time to think when I'm driving, because there's a lot of my projects are around British Columbia and stuff like that, and I do a lot of brainstorming, and I come up with these fantastic ideas of as to earn like a passive income, and they're great and stuff like that. But there's only so much time during the week to do stuff, and I don't really factor that piece in. So I started my own business officially 2 weeks ago, making and building paranormal equipment, as you guys know. With the profits I've made out of that, I'm halfway through purchasing a, a parallel printing set, like a press and stuff like that, and cups and stuff like that. Because there seems to be a bit of a niche to it as well, and I just get it rattles my cage seeing like these ghost hunting stores and like various other places that charge an extortionate rate for equipment and t-shirts and stuff like that. So I'm not. I want to, obviously get compensated for my time, but I'm not heavily in it for profit and stuff like that. And to be honest with you, when the store first launched, I had zero expectations, and it's taken off big time. I'm like selling out stuff left, right, and centre, and it's quite an exciting ride at the moment, especially with because obviously, like any business, when you start your own business, you have to spend a bit before you start earning. There's that stabilization period where you tend to spend more than what you're earning just to get that to start
Mm-hmm.
things to start coming in, and it's reached that peak at the moment where I'm not earning anything, but what I've got coming up in orders and stuff like that, and with the with like the t-shirts and stuff like that, it's going to start earning a little bit of a passive income for me as well. But again, it's I've got that. I've got stuff around the house to do. I've got to be a father, and I've got to go to work, and it's that juggling that more than anything else. But it's a lot of fun. I love building things now, which I never thought I would be. I seem to be more detail orientated things on a lot of things now, more than what I used to be as well. So it's fun, and paranormal side as well. It's been good. We've done this year. We've done a lot of. We've done the fundraising event up at the O'Keefe Ranch, was in BC here. We did the. There's a couple of other things we've done as well. And we've also started. We're going to be starting a project up with the Vernon Town Theatre, which is in Vernon, which none of you guys probably know, but it is noted online as one of the most haunted places in North America. Like, there's a few places that there's a few websites that actually illustrate that it as so. And we did a kind of a walkthrough with a show there last week, and we got talking with the manager there, and it's a non-profit society, it's the same as us. We're going to be working on some collaboration over the next few months on that. So it's exciting. It's exciting for sure. Like, burning gears, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what? That's what we need to do. If that's one of the most haunted places in North America, then this team, Kathy and Trevor and you and me, we got to get to Vernon, and we got to do like a really big thing there.
No,
think so.
you know what? Notably, the most haunted location, and I hate using that term haunted, but the most haunted location is that Gooding University, by far for me.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, I still get excitement knowing that I'm going back there next year, and I've never been to a place that it got to the point of the 2 days where it was just like I need to turn my voice recorder off and all my equipment down because my body just couldn't take that excitement anymore. It was just my body was just like, that's enough, that's enough, that's enough. That's just early night and head off back to Canada. So, but it was a lot of fun, that place, for sure.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yep.
Yes. So
Well, yeah, hopefully this year we'll get Kathy and Linda to come with us, Pete. So
yeah, we've got from Team Canada side. There's I think I'm up to about 5 people that are coming down with
oh
me.
wow. Okay.
So we'll have there'll be a lot of people there to spread our wings and stuff like that.
Is that going to be
What?
April again, or
What's that?
is that April again?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
I'm shooting for it. I still got to get it booked. So
we've got to talk about that because I've got
Yeah.
to contribute towards that as well.
We'll talk
so,
about it.
Yeah,
hopefully it's still available.
I hope so too.
Yeah, it'll be in that time frame. So
Right. As long as it's not summer, because I wouldn't appreciate that place without AC.
no, the attic in the summertime is not tenable.
No, it's not good at all. Not good. Anyway, so this week's topic, which in lines with everyone's visions within the paranormal field, a lot of the times, is equipment and what we use, us as investigators, and the pros and cons of certain equipment and stuff like that, purely amalgamated by research and my own personal views on equipment, and obviously the team's personal views as well. So we can start off by just going through each one of us about what we carry around and what we don't carry around and why, that kind of thing. So I'm going to spin my finger around and I'm going to point at Linda. You can start first.
Why did I know you were going to do that?
I know.
It was completely random. It was just,
completely random.
The chance of the finger pointer,
Sure, it was really random. Yeah, sure it was. Okay. So, as most of you know, our team is a real grassroots kind of team. Not that we don't believe in using a whole bunch of equipment, but because, we don't charge for what we do, we have our own equipment, we have to buy our own equipment. And a lot of us are very sensitive, and I've been doing this a long time. I don't rely on equipment per se. And the reason that we do have some equipment is usually for validation, not only for validation for ourselves, but if we're doing something out there for a client, because we do a lot of residential investigations, then we need some sort of external validation. So I could go in with, the team clairvoyant, and she could say, oh yeah, there's somebody in the room right now and I can feel that. And can you feel the temperature? I mean, yes, but the client might go, yeah, no, I don't feel anything. So first and foremost, my feeling has always been the best equipment is yourself. The best equipment is you feeling things, understanding things intrinsically when you walk in a room. But one of my most favorite pieces of equipment, and has been for 42 years, has been a notebook and a pen and my own self. So often I'll walk in and I'll jot down notes, how I'm feeling, what the room is like, what the atmosphere is like. Am I seeing anything? Am I feeling anything? Am I sensing anything? Am I smelling anything? All of that stuff. And I always write it down. But I also go in with, of course, equipment. So we have various types of, EMF detectors. We've got the good old K2, which everybody sees on TV. Of course, flashlight. We never go anywhere without a flashlight. I often, say as well, my next favorite piece of equipment is my good old tape recorder. Well, digital voice recorder. I do have an old tape recorder as well, which often we use to capture EVPs. We have a spirit box with an external speaker. We also have the little headphones so we can, use the Estes method and do all of that. We also have various types of motion detectors that beep and do fun things, and we have ones that just turn on so a light goes on. And even though some people really hate this, we do have our little cat balls that sometimes we use for motion detecting, etc., etc. But yeah, those are the basic things. I carry old old school things like a compass. We do have a Kinect camera sometimes, which we use. We have to make very sure that everything is cool, because a Kinect camera will sometimes think a golf bag in the corner of a room is an entity. So we have to be very careful of the whole room when we use it. But I mean, we use the typical things. We have video cameras that we sometimes use, tripods, set them up, make sure that we're filming. I mean, we use what I think normal out there paranormal investigators will use. But I still think to this day that the most valuable form of equipment is yourself and your perception of your environment. So there. I'll get off the soapbox.
So there, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Jeez, Linda's putting her foot down about something. Jeez, we'll stand back and be all quiet about that one. Jeez, what kind of equipment do you generally stay away from? If one of your investigators brings it on, you kind of
I roll my eyes. Yeah, I roll my eyes and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of the ITC kind of Paravox and all of that stuff, because I don't know. I guess I don't trust it. And I do know that spirits can manipulate equipment, and I get it. And that's always been the argument from some people on my team, because they do enjoy using them. So I will permit them to be used, but I do kind of, raise an eyebrow at some of that stuff. So I don't know. I don't know if I trust it as much as other forms of equipment, even though other pieces of equipment can be manipulated just as much. But I find I don't trust a lot of applications. There's something about them that I'm still kind of leery about. I don't know. It's not something I love.
The spirit box is ITC as well.
Exactly, which is why I don't really trust it, but I do know that sometimes we've received a lot of things coming through, a lot of voices, sentences that actually make sense given the situation that we're in. And I find that if you use them for an extended period of time, often the spirits, the entities in that location begin to trust you, begin to come forward, and will eventually use these pieces of equipment to communicate with you. So yes, sometimes things come through that I can understand, but for some reason, I don't know, it's those apps that I have a real problem with. I just do.
What's your like? Obviously, in a broader sense, we're all students in the field and stuff like that, and every new piece of equipment that is generated from that guy that makes lots of money on ghost hunting stores and stuff like that. But generally, are you very open to new technology, or are you generally believe it, kind of see it kind of person?
I mean, I'm open to it. And I know who you're talking about, and he shall henceforth be named Voldemort. I really think, bring it forward. I think that there's a lot in this field that we've come a long way, obviously. But I want to see it. I want to use it. I want to experience it before I can say truthfully that I want to sort of bring it on as a piece of equipment that I would use on a regular basis. But I mean, I don't know. I find that, especially when we do what we do, which is a lot of residentials, I shy away from 40,000 feet of coaxial cables and all of the all of the cameras and in a million rooms and hallways. And I think as less intrusive as possible, especially given those situations. People don't really like when you're intrusive. They do want the validation, but I tend to shy away from a ton of equipment because I think it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Just have the right pieces of equipment for the right situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. A lot of problems with a lot of the times when you've got all of the equipment laid out, if you do capture something of interest, it's really hard to ascertain whether it was something that was done by, naturally rather than something that's paranormal as well, because you've almost got to have a camera on a camera
Exactly.
to really kind of ascertain that and have that investigation controlled in such a manner that you know where everyone is at that particular time. And it's difficult, especially when you got there's a buzz and excitement of everyone. It's just like, yeah, let's just spread out and just see what you can find, and and it's tough. And we're pretty much, well, I'm pretty much the same over the years as well, because I went out and bought all the equipment and stuff like that when I first took over Vancouver Paranormal Society, but it really done no justice, because I was the one that was putting the equipment up and I was the one taking it down, and for very little benefit of it at the end of the day, because there's things that I captured, but it was really hard to ascertain whether it's natural or not with those DVR sets. Not so much with still cameras anyway. But thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
So the magic finger is now spinning.
Careful, it's gonna go in your. You say, be careful, you almost got yourself in the eye.
Hello.
So, as you guys know, we don't investigate anymore. So, as far as equipment current, that's non-existent. But when we did investigate, I think one of the, besides video, audio, temperature, and we've talked about this before in past shows. My favorite tool was always the temperature gauge. And, and that's where we would have a stable spot that we would take a static temperature with and just go ask, the spirit to move it up or move it down. And, if there was something there, it was amazing how many times it would go up or down by the couple of degrees that we had asked of it to do. And it was, I think that always just completely fascinated me. And otherwise, I mean, we were very, very old school, I would say, too, because we just didn't have the money for equipment, or a lot of equipment for sure. And so we had to go with the old school cameras, the old school, audio recorders, and then you learn to improvise, like using, like Linda, you had the cat toy. I mean, that was something that we would use, or the bells. It was a lot of, again, old school stuff. We didn't have the lasers or any of the things that people got kicking around now. Like, that just didn't exist. We even went as far as using like the baby powder, in some areas and stuff like that, right? Because that was what we could afford, as a team when we did do it. Now, obviously, being a psychic medium, a lot of times I did use my senses too. But when we did use, if we used those in an investigation, I was off site. I would not be on site. And it would have to, the only thing that would actually be a part of the investigation was if it, coordinated with what was being picked up, or if there was some sort of, way to validate what I was getting, or along with the from the evidence that was picked up, from the investigation. But I had to be kept completely away. I would have no idea as to anything about the investigation beforehand. So that would be the only time. If I was on an investigation, and I used my senses, it wasn't for, again, it wasn't anything that we used, as part of the investigation. It would be more like, I don't really feel great in this room. I'm going to go sit in another room. Or maybe something where, if I didn't feel, safe in a place, or if you just felt like you were, off, and you needed to warn an investigator or whatever it was. But that would be about the only time that, my senses, I guess, were actually used on an investigation. So, yeah. And now, when I do, if I do investigations, it's the same thing. I'm only there as a consultant, but I'm not there. It's all virtual. And we have, there's a a couple of investigators. Well, I would say like they're quite huge in the investigation field that I have worked virtually with. I don't want to mention names right now here or anything like that, but you know what I mean? It's like societies that I've worked with. But that's the only time that I investigate now.
So do you, when you're doing readings though, do you use anything
No,
to
I
help
use
with your readings?
tarot. I do use tarot when I do readings, but for me, I don't really need the tarot, I guess is the best way to say it. Like, but people like visual tools. It's the same kind of like when we're doing, ghost hunting, right? Like, you could say, "Hey, this is what happened," but people want to see the actual evidence of something. For me, I use tarot sometimes, but not only does it kind of keep me sometimes stable, but people do like the visual tools. So when I talk about being stable is sometimes when you tap into somebody, depending on the openness of the person, you can end up down it's like a rabbit hole. You know what I mean? So if you're tapping into somebody and they're looking for, let's say, a general reading, you could end up like, you know, chances are this person didn't come to you to discover what happened to them at 2 years old, or you know what I mean, but you're like, you don't really have control of where spirit's going to take you or where that energy is going to lead you to. So I'll use tarot as a guiding tool to help, to stay within the current and maybe of what somebody wants to be have looked at now, or possible upcoming events, etc., etc. But you sometimes need a stabilizer, or a grounding tool, I guess, so that you don't go and end up down a rabbit hole. And that's what I use tarot for.
Cool.
I don't know.
What kind of equipment or tools do you generally roll your eyes up about?
EMF.
Yeah.
EMF. Yeah, probably the EMF. I mean, we did use EMF, but it was mostly, just to get a general, because we do know that EMF, we had a couple of, we had a couple investigators that were very sensitive to EMF, but we had one in particular who actually, like, you could almost see her vibrating, even if, you know what I mean? Like, we we wouldn't know that there was EMF on the premises, like they're a high EMF, but this would be before we tested everything, or checked, the EMF parameters or whatever. But you could almost see her where she was like, you could almost see her twitching, and she would get a headache, and she wasn't feeling well. And then when we did test the EMF, it would be like, or or she would be sitting near a spot that was really high EMF for whatever reason. And so we used it mostly, just to sort of, and if people were complaining, let's say, dark shadows or physical ailments, right? Because we know that EMF can cause some physical ailments on people, stomach, headache, et cetera, et cetera. So that if that was one of their complaints, then absolutely we would use EMF for that. But as a paranormal tool, when people are using it as a paranormal tool, and it's like, I know he's right here, I know the ghost is standing right there, and it's like, or you're beside a computer, or the phone went off, or whatever it was, like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, that's we don't need it for that. And that's where my eyes start to roll. So
Make sure I won't bring any EMF testers the next time me and Kathy.
yeah.
Hey,
You'll be using them secretly. You'll be like, okay, pull out the EMF. Let's use it over here.
yeah, Kathy's not looking. She's gone outside. Get the gauge out. Get the gauge out. Okay. So I started my life as a paranormal investigator with a very much, it was a spiritual based group back in the UK, and they were very minimal with the equipment they used in relation to what they deemed as evidence or findings and stuff like that. They used to use a lot of spirit boards, commonly in North America, Ouija boards and stuff like that. They believed a lot of their that they can tap into the energies around them and they can communicate via the board and stuff like that, which is interesting to observe and stuff like that. We use basics and a lot of, and I think Kathy brushed upon it, and so did Linda as well. Things like which I still got in my kit today. I've got like little bells I got from the dollar store with little pipe cleaners, and I put them over door handles. And we used to put like fishing wire across doorways with little bells and stuff like that as well. And it was low budget equipment that we used, but to be brutally honest with you, and I'm going to contradict myself later in relation to the equipment I use, it was a lot more simpler because you were able to establish a controlled experiment with when you're investigating. Because if that bell suddenly moved, you knew that there was something. Someone could have walked in the room and nudged it, or there was a change in the air temperature or air movement and stuff like that. So in relation to that, it's controlled. We don't generally look at EMF as a byproduct of being paranormal, because, like Kathy was alluding to as well, there's so much variance in it as well. Like, i.e., that you can walk into any given place and your meter will go off, but you have no idea what could be setting that off, and you go in there later, and you'll be doing an EVP session or doing investigations and stuff like that, and it suddenly fluctuates. Again, we don't know what could be setting that off. It could be a number of environmental or mechanical reasons behind it, such as electric pylons outside, people's cell phones, even though it's on airplane mode. Just any given radio frequency could manipulate that EMF meter. So generally, what we do with residentials, we look for things. We look at EMF levels as a base reading. But obviously there's like carbon monoxide and other things that we look at as well. Generally, that's what I categorize that under. Much like Kathy as well, my main source of testing is temperature. I do look at temperature because what Kathy alluded to as well, you can control that environment. You're in a room, you've got a thermometer, the temperature suddenly drops 4 degrees. You're like, okay, who stepped in the room as the furnace come on? You can look at natural reasons, but things like EMF and to a degree, if you're checking for radiation or any given like testing at that level or that magnitude, we don't know what could be causing that environmentally, and whether it could be paranormal or not. So with that being said, that's usually what my testing criteria relies on the most. I do, going back, I started off as a form of, recording EVPs and stuff like that. I had the good old faithful tape recorder. Still got one to this day, which I still use on investigations. And if any of you guys have been in the field for X amount of time, I would recommend using a tape recorder because unlike digital, when you're recording, the recording creates its own white noise, and it can drain out environmental noises and stuff like that a lot better than what it can with digital. The problem is with digital now is that which I use as well, don't get me wrong, but the downside of that being is that you have these pieces of equipment that are so refined in the getting noise at such a defined level that if there's any manipulation with mechanical or anything that changes in the environment with like HVAC and stuff like that, it's really hard to define half the time. But with tape recordings, it creates its own white noise, which is it's worked before in even recently. Like last time I probably used that was probably about 1.5 to 2 years ago, because I've never had the opportunity to set up that right environment. But tape recorder, I'd recommend it if you guys go on like eBay or you go garage sales and stuff like that. Get yourself a tape recorder and start that. Moving on, technology. I've evolved from the standard digital voice recorders. I went to a Zoom H4n, and which was good because these create a 180 degree circumference reading, and which is good for real-time EVP work as well. So I can, and it's a lot more sharper than most standard voice recorders. That this has been my by my side for the last probably 6-7 years as an investigator. It's kind of the Rolls Royce of voice recorders. If you have the money to invest, I strongly recommend you get at least one of these or the equivalent of Tascam. Do similar models similar to this with the XY speakers on top and microphones on top. Same kind of concept as well. I then evolved onto the H5N, which is the ladies' favourite. No, it's basically the same as this. It has the same parameters, but it has multiple. You can change the heads over and stuff like that. The reason why I went for the shotgun mic on top is because it has a 360-degree parameter with the recordings and stuff like that. Also, as well, if I'm doing real time with my headphones, I'm able to detect, because there's a left and right terminal either side of the shotgun, I'm able to establish on my headphones where the noise was coming from as well. This could be arguably, it could be people define it as being too sensitive, but there is an adjustment on there as well where you can just bring it down, because you don't want it too sensitive. Because with me, I've got like my grip with it now, but before when I first started using it, it's kind of a funny story. I'm walking around and I've got it in my hand and waving it around and stuff like that, and it's like, God, I can hear someone's heartbeat, and it was the pulse on my hand coming through on it. What is that? Does everyone hear that? And it was just like, I was going mad. And it's like, oh, it's me. And of course, I'm getting more and more excited, and it's going faster and faster and faster. So it's this is like definitely worth its weight in gold for me. I am a fan of the spirit boxes, but I've modified a lot of them now to eliminate static. This is just one of them. I have 4 of them. I do build my own as well. I kind of I pick and choose which one I use. Each one of them has a different benefit for me more than anything else. But I'm not kind of like Trevor. I'm not a fan of the loud noises and stuff like that. Static as well. I don't use these for the static anymore. I almost eliminate them altogether. I just keep it in the background. I look for those frequency spikes when they come through, as Trevor knows when we were investigating last, and it becomes a bit less annoying with that. I've had quite compelling results out of this over the years. Intelligent responses come through. I've had my full name. I've had teammates come through with their full names as well. And it's not a misinterpretation of a radio station. It's that frequency spike that comes through. It's that voice that comes through above that frequency level, that louder noise. That's what I'm trying to tap into. More recently with equipment and stuff like that, with the alignment of putting like a fishing wire across doorways and stuff like that, I've created like a modified version of the tripwire that you see on the ghost hunting shows and stuff like that, which is like a neon strip with. It's basically a REM pod, but it's less sensitive than the REM pods you buy. So there's less false positives where you hang these above doors, and then you can see it flashing. Now I have the ability to turn the noise off, Trevor. So you'll be very happy about that when we
Yeah.
but these you can hang above doorways and stuff like that. So obviously, if you're inviting spirits to come into the room, because these adjustments I've made on them, you get a very it's a lot more easier to deter whether there's environmental issues with them or not, or whether it's something paranormal. These do still react with electrical conduits and stuff like that, but when you set them up, providing you test it first, we use these all the time now, and they've been particularly on the historic sites that we've been visiting recently, well worth its weight. one of the things, just as not really equipment, but investigators, when you're carrying your equipment around and stuff like that, you're just walking around with handful of equipment and stuff like that, and it's just like, Jesus, what do I use and stuff like that. But I just recently got this sent over from China. This is a motorcycle bag that attaches like those fanny bags that you used to get years ago, but it straps around your leg, and it's like a big pocket that goes on the side of you with like multiple pockets in there and stuff like that. I used this on our last investigation, and it's shown its weight in gold because I can put all my batteries in there and stuff like that. Like this is for I think I paid like $6 for it from China, and it's worth its weight in gold already. Good quality as well. I Another thing as well, much to the temperature thing that we were going through earlier on, I created these little tiny temperature sensors, much like these, where these basically you can hang them over doors and stuff like that, and put them into rooms and stuff like that. So if you're in a you're investigating in a larger area, and there's certain rooms where you want to use as that trigger room where you say, if there's someone in that room, can you please move around and stuff like that. I set these up in there, and basically the sensors on here, they're like a standard PIR sensor. They activate with temperature. So the moment that there is temperature movement, a change, these will go off, and it's a very low buzzing noise on these with the flashing lights and stuff like that. These are handy. I've got 6 of these, and we're like 2 weeks ago when we was up in we investigated a big hotel. I put these in all the rooms, and while we were in the corridor and stuff like that, and we had quite some interesting results out of these as well. So yeah, that's generally it with me. I What I generally turn my nose up to is obviously the apps. I've recently a friend of mine recommended one app as well, and I went out and bought it and stuff like that. And I don't put a lot of value into them. There is certain scientific apps that you can get, which I have used in the past, such as seismic apps, where you can it measures movement and stuff like that. I do wholeheartedly believe in that kind of thing. With the SLS camera, I tend to stay back from that as well, because again, it's almost impossible to ascertain whether it's paranormal or whether it's normal because of the what can trigger it. It's not so much the fact that it's programmed to make assumptions. It's also got problems with electrical devices and stuff like that, where you've seen the dancing man on top of the fridge and stuff like that. That's the compressor setting it off, and it creates that interference and stuff like that. And it's very hard to validate to a client that that dancing stick man is, in fact, their Uncle Fred. So it's you don't get a lot of credit in that in relation to that.
Well, Uncle Fred really liked to dance on top of the refrigerator.
He loved it. He loved the good old Irish jig. That Uncle Fred.
Fred Astaire. I mean,
Actually, my
really.
Uncle Fred didn't. He was pretty much a recluse, actually. But anyway, so with that, and I don't put a lot, like I mentioned, the EMF meters and stuff like that. The Ovilus, please don't go out and spend $3,000 on a piece of plastic that can spurt out random names. Just don't. Like, there's just
there's free apps for that. You can do.
Yeah, just don't. If anyone takes me seriously in this field or anything like that, just don't waste your money on Ovilus. I'm not even going to go start on that, but it's just a piece of plastic with a microchip that's designed to spurt out random words, and eventually, if you used it long enough, it will spurt out a word that has a coincidence to something that you're saying at that time. So please don't put a lot of faith into things like that. Yeah, that's it. That's basically it from me. Any questions, guys?
I don't think so. So,
any questions from the audience? No. Okay, then over to.
I wonder who it's going to be.
Trevor!
So, all of you talk a lot about, the different types of equipment you use. We use some of the same stuff, of course, because there's equipment that we call it the basic equipment that is proven over and over again to be reliable, that we can show good evidence on and things like that. To anybody that's trying to get into paranormal investigation, you just got to ask yourself, what are you getting into it for? Are you into it just because you want to go have a night of scares, or are you out there? Are you actually trying to find real evidence? People who just are out there for a night of just thrills and stuff like that, anything that lights up and makes noise, or you can download onto your phone, you'll do just fine. If you're in it and you really want to get good evidence, however, those things are not going to help. I find that I'm kind of starting with the things that I avoid, but the things that people will get hyper focused on, REM pods, for example. I love the idea behind the REM pod. I get it. The problem is it's not telling you what it's measuring. It's not telling you why it's alarming. And they just kind of go off all the time, and they're really loud. And people have a tendency to get focused on those lights and that sound, and they stop paying attention to their environment, what's around, and they kind of lose all situational awareness. And when we're listening to things like a really loud ghost box, or we're listening to the REM pods going off, we're missing the disembodied voices that we're going to be able to hear with our own ears. Kind of like we alluded earlier, the best piece of equipment is the investigator, right? So your eyes, your ears, your senses. So anything that's going to detract from that, I avoid. For a budget, if anybody can do a paranormal investigation with a voice recorder, I think this one was $30. It is nowhere near as nice as the one Pete showed you. This doesn't have the multi-directional microphones on it or anything like that. However, it still picks up EVPs very, very well. The most common type of evidence that you can get are EVPs. And so a voice recorder, you cannot go wrong with a voice recorder. So you can get these on Temu. You can get them on Amazon. You can go down to Fred Meyer or wherever. Do you have Fred Meyers in Canada? I don't know what
No.
they're.
No.
We're deprived of Fred Meyer.
No, we only got running water about 2 weeks ago, so
you might have Walmart. I don't know.
Yeah.
So so a voice recorder, and the nice thing is, especially when you're starting out by yourself, that is a very, very affordable piece of equipment. Eventually, like Pete said, save up and get some of that nicer stuff. If you can join a good paranormal team, you can start pooling money together and you can buy a lot of that, the bigger equipment. I don't have any bigger equipment with me here today to show because my team is currently on a weekend investigation out in Oregon. And so they have all the good stuff. I've got all my own little cheap stuff here though. So
they were doing live, weren't they? I saw some of their live. Like maybe we could tell people where they can go to your page and maybe see some of the live from last night.
Oh yeah. They were live last night.
Western Paranormal Facebook.
Western Idaho. Yep, that's Western Idaho Paranormal Facebook
Western
page.
Idaho.
Yeah, they're doing. They'll be doing some live streaming from the Sumter Bed and Breakfast. If anybody has ever watched Ghost Mines, that was a place that was featured there. We go there every year. We've had a great success, and we love it up there. So another piece of equipment, and I know that they hate it, but I've got my own little EMF detector here. This one cost me, I think it was like $18. And it's very, very inexpensive. We actually modified a bunch of these. A friend of mine who's kind of a techie, he was able to move the sensor up, and we kind of drilled some holes through the plastic to try to eliminate some of the interference. And again, this is not a thing that we use to prove that there's paranormal activity. A lot of times this is used in preliminary investigation when we're going in and we're checking out a place. Recently, we had a client at their work. They have an old building with a big attic space, and she has to do a lot of work up in that attic space, and she doesn't like being up there. She said she hated being up there. She had friends that would come by. They'd go up there, same thing. They had these horrible, they just didn't feel right. We went up there and decided and discovered there was just a massive amount of EMF up in this attic. And and I'm 99% sure it was that EMF that's causing the problem. We have plans to try to go back to this place. We want to shut the power off to the building and see if we're still, they still feel that kind of same uneasiness up there. Now, on the flip side, during investigations, I have had EMF detectors in places that had no electricity. And all of a sudden we were getting EMF spikes. And I'm not talking like 0.1, 0.2. I'm talking like full number EMF spikes that had no business being up there. And so, but that doesn't prove anything. You got to have something here as well, right? You got to be able to show that there's something more going on. And so when we're looking at equipment, I want stuff for my clients that is going to give them something that they can see or something that they can hear. It was mentioned earlier, if I say, oh, something just tapped me on the shoulder. Well, that's great for me, and nobody else out there. It's not benefiting anybody, right? So, if we can record it in some fashion so that they can see it or hear it, that's what we're after. Now, another thing that I bought, and sometimes I use it and sometimes I don't. So it looks really cool. This thing doesn't actually do much. It's just like a dust lens thing. I don't know. But it's got a shotgun mic. I bought this off of Amazon. I think it was like $140, I think. So it wasn't really expensive. It's not. The nice thing about this is it's an IR capable. So I can hook an IR light up to this thing and I can run a night shot and video and IR. So, and I just kind of like the little handheld thing here. It's just a more comfortable grip. Now, my team, we have several different types of video cameras that we're using, but mainly what we're using are Amcrest security cams that we put in stationary locations around the building, and they stay up all the time. Cameras are really good. Video cameras are really good for a couple of reasons. One, they're always watching. They're watching when you're there. They're watching when you're not there. The nice thing about it as well is when we are in some of these locations, and if something happens to come up missing later on and somebody says, hey, did you guys steal this? We have cameras that are all over the building so we can watch and see what happens and either say, oh yeah, my idiot, guy, he's fired. We know that would never happen, but it's a protection for yourself. It's a protection for the building, but we catch a lot of good stuff off of those cameras as well. So we are using, we use all sorts of stuff. We have so much equipment at this point that it fills the entire bed of my pickup truck. We have to haul it all over the place and it sucks. But if you keep it simple, again, the basics, a voice recorder, a camcorder, a regular camera is great. Even your phone camera is okay. As long as you're not using like apps and stuff like that to take your pictures, that's really important.
Everything's filtered. A filtered ghost. That ghost has no wrinkles at all.
It's got beautiful complexion.
And somebody talked about infrared lighting. Infrared lighting is a double-edged sword. It's great in low light locations. I love, you got to ask yourself, why do you investigate in the dark? What's the point? A lot of times your eye is going to start playing tricks on you. You're going to see things that aren't there. It's just because your brain is trying to make sense of, light disturbances and visual disturbances and things like that. IR is great. We talk about eliminating shadows and sources of light. So, people talk about seeing shadow people. That's a great way of doing it. Eliminate those light sources. See if you're still seeing those shadows in the IR. The other problem with IR is they create orbs. We all love orbs. Orbs are so cool because, they're just there and they, everybody experience. But, there are paranormal orbs out there. But 99.9% of the time, it's just dust. It's just dust or bugs, and we've proven it time and time again. So people when you're working with IR, just make sure that you're understanding what the things that it can cause, like dust orbs and things like that. Yeah. Any questions?
No. So I use still cameras. use I experiment with the full band of full spectrum. So whether
Yep.
it's IR or UV, I've gone pretty much every layer all the way through, and I've had a data log now. Well, I haven't done it recently over the last couple of years, but I've had a data log for the past 10 years, and in relation to the different lights, different area light, and different colors as well, and capturing a image that I cannot explain. I'm not saying it's paranormal and stuff like that. Um, we don't experiment in the dark. Usually, with the experimental light, we simulate different light. So, but it will be in a controlled area where, i.e., there's no investigators or anything like that. The thing is, when, like, for example, Kathy, when we were over in Victoria, where I got that lady in white,
Mhm.
it's, I put the camera in the room, and I put, complete darkness. I set up a motion detector on top, which signals to the shutter, and and I've just put the whole room in. I think it was UV. No, it was, yeah, it was UV. The whole
Yeah.
room in UV, and I captured that image from there. And providing I don't put it into areas where there's investigators and stuff like that. I put it into a given area, and I've over the years with still cameras, I get a lot more succession with using still cameras as opposed to video cameras, because that particular area is controlled. I know that there's, if Bert suddenly walks past the camera, I've got him in multiple frames, and that one area is like consistent. If it was like shadows and stuff like that from the other side, you get a sense from the other side of the camera. You're able to ascertain whether it is or not a shadow from the other side, because the camera's not moving, that kind of thing. And but with going back to the orb thing, you're right. You're totally right, and it's regardless whether it's IR or UV or full spectrum light or whatever, you still get those orbs. But what my cameras have, and I think I mentioned it before on previous shows, is that there's actually two of my cameras now that have crystal lenses, as opposed to the glass lenses you put inside cameras, because the way that the orb is projected is a reflection off of it bounces back off of that speckle,
Mhm.
and it comes off of the lens, and then it bounces back, and that's what creates that image. But crystal lenses don't absorb light, and I'm able to. So if I capture an image, which I have over the past years, I'm able to automatically discount the fact that I haven't got orbs or anything like that. So you're right about light. I don't, I think it's stupid a lot of times where people think, that you can capture more ghosts in the dark than what you can. Like 2 o'clock in the morning, my brain's already starting to like tap out anyway, and I'm going to see all sorts of things.
Well, it goes down to, it's like, what time of day are the clients experiencing paranormal activity and things like that? Are they completely in the dark, or is it just happening? So a place is haunted 24/7 if it's haunted. And we talk about it, keep equipment. Keep in mind, I mean, they've been capturing images on film for almost as long as there's been cameras,
Yeah.
of ghostly images and things like that. So, I mean, all we're getting now is, more digitized, and so we kind of have to be careful with, what the computer is trying to pick out and make into images and stuff. And you're kind of the anomaly, because I've seen a lot of the evidence that you've caught with still cameras, and it blows my mind the amount of evidence that you've caught with still cameras, because that is one of the rarest forms of evidence that you're going to get, is being able to point a camera in a certain direction and actually pick up an apparition. That's pretty cool. So, but you would think that, if you had if your still camera set up on motion sensing to be able to take a picture of the lady in white, you could set a video camera and do the same thing, couldn't you? And just
You can, but the principles of cameras, because it's rolling footage as well, and the image itself, when you get camera footage coming through, it's more there's more questions than what there are to video cameras footage than what it is to a like a still shot. I find, because it's you see things and things move around and stuff like that. I think it's a lot more controlled with just still cameras.
All right, cool. Well, does the audience have any questions about any pieces of equipment? You guys have been super active today. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
That was fun.
That was fun. Thank you, guys. If you like the show, please click on that like button, and we do appreciate your you tuning in today. And I'm just trying to find the end title on the screen because Kathy doesn't have access to the account. And,
And by the way,
you guys talk while I find the end screen.
Yeah, if you want to see some ghost hunting tonight, the Western Idaho Paranormal Facebook page, I believe they'll be doing some live streaming. They were doing some stuff earlier as well, so they should be live streaming tonight. So yeah, go over there and enjoy.
And if you guys are interested in some of my merch, my store, I can share the link to my store in the bottom comments of this feed later today. And that's it. Thanks, guys, for tuning in, and we'll be back again hopefully soon. Bye.